Chapter 7. Superpower? Jett never thought of it like that. But he's never shied away from a challenge before, and after getting home from school, he immediately gets to work. Every superhero has some sort of disguise. It makes sense on so many levels. Protecting loved ones, living a parallel life that's at least close to normal, and not being liable for citywide damage from rampages through central business districts. Being the son of a cop, Jett is well aware that police will call off a chase if there is a risk to the public. Superheroes have a different code. They don't stop until they've razed a metropolis to the ground and destroyed the insurance industry. Jett ponders on the custom of costume and decides that it is indeed wise. He has confirmation of his remarkable ability, and if word got out about the power in his heart, he may never have a moment's peace again in his life. Besides, if an embrace goes wrong, and a target is immune to his power for some reason, Jett won't be able to live it down. He'd always be the hugger, perhaps sexual harasser, or even a bully. Jett scours the internet, searching for images of superheroes. Impractical would sum up most outfits. Capes are aplenty. A garish, inconvenient potential hazard. Spandex and a mask seem to be convention. Rugby jerseys have followed the same trend, and are way tighter than they used to be. It makes sense, of course, giving the opposition less to grab, and as a superhero, the last thing one would want is to get snagged on a fence. But how to make one? The most unrealistic thing about getting bitten by a radioactive spider was not that all of a sudden a teenage boy could sling webs, but that he developed the amazing ability to tailor skin-tight, seamless outfits made of indestructible material. Perhaps a spider was once bitten by a tailor. He slides the mirrored door of his built-in wardrobe and pulls open his sports drawer. I guess this will have to do, he thinks to himself. Next he goes to the garage and takes a can of black spray paint to his full-face helmet. He checks himself in the mirror. Enemies won't stand a chance when they get a load of this, because they will most likely die of laughter. But at least his undies are on the correct side of his tights. Now for the important part, the part from which costume design was conveniently distracting him. How to actually get to Wendell Preacher? How to get to any target for that matter? Through his reasoning, he determines two parameters should be met. 1. Wendell must be alone, for a grappling match works only one-on-one. 2. There must be a way to make an emergency exit, should the mission go awry. The amount of reconnaissance required to satisfy those two conditions would rule out rugby training, MMA training, homework, and life in general. Jett reflects on advice from his rugby coach. Play what's in front of you. If the opponent isn't offering any openings, and when an adversary is well matched, it is up to the attacker to change the shape of the defence. Running a line here and drawing some players there and getting the ball to where the gaps appeared was his basic strategy. He pictures Wendell and his posse roaming the halls together. He must disperse the pack and draw Wendell to another location. Ideally, it would be off school grounds, as doing it at Flexington South High will give away that the mysterious helmeted hugger is a student. But that probably isn't possible. English is first period, quelling the anxious wait. Jett waits outside the classroom with Rain, who rambles on about the poor recycling practices of his apartment complex. How can you not know that no plastic bags means do not put plastic bags in the recycling bin? Do they think it means the person bearing the sign has run out of plastic bags and would like their idiotic neighbours to donate some by depositing them in this recycling bin? Come on! Jett listens with one ear and nods, while his eyes are fixed on the lockers at the end of the corridor. Sure enough, Wendell and his two attack dogs round the corner and open their lockers. He watches as Wendell punches in the code for his locker, and almost laughs to himself. 1111, what luck. Jett excuses himself in the middle of English, earning himself a toilet pass with some top-notch grimacing. Once in the hallway, his heart races. He rushes over to Wendell's locker and punches in the code. The lead turns green. He opens the door and looks at the back side of it. He swallows. Stuck on the inside is a swastika. Below that is a Nation Front sticker. And next to that is a picture of a group of people in white hooded robes holding assault rifles. He hits the reset switch The LED pulses green, and Jett punches in a new code. He then hits the reset switch again, and a long beep is heard. He closes the locker and hits the lock button. The LED turns red, and Jett returns to class from his bathroom break, having relieved himself. The bell rings and folders are shoved into bags. Jett moves as calmly as he can, but there is a slight shake in his arms. Students spill into the corridor and, sure enough, there's Wendell, perplexed as to why his locker won't open. He bangs it with the heel of his hand repeatedly, drawing the attention of everyone around. "Piece of junk! Made in China rubbish!" he shouts. Mr. Schwartz comes over. "You think that's going to help, Wendell? Why don't you use your head for once?" Wendell cocks his head back, ready to launch it into the locker door. "Not like that. Go to the student support office and get them to reset it." Wendell stops and walks away, with his two acolytes in tow. "Where do you think you two are going? Your lockers are fine. Get to second period." "I'll catch you in class," Wendell says, with a quick flick of the chin. The hallway clears, and Jett does a little fist pump. He has broken the formation of the opposition, and he knows his opponent's next move. Jett goes to the toilets and takes off his school uniform. Underneath is a superhero outfit he put together the night before. He knows that Wendell will come back to his locker, and his heart pounds as he waits. Then it hits him. What he is about to do is assault. What if his target were a female? There's a term for forcing oneself onto an unwilling party, and it isn't superhero. It's not much of a superpower if he has to risk ending up as a registered sex offender to exercise it. Bonding with Hector was incidental, and in the case of Emily Earthman, consensual. This would be assault at a minimum. Secondly, he's already tampered with Wendell's locker, which is vandalism, all because he's been named as a suspect by Olive. Superheroes are always so happy to destroy and break the law, so long as it suits their agenda. It was a bad example they set, and not one that he is willing to follow. This is a terrible idea. There are no superheroes, just super abusers with superpower. He does not want to be a masked vigilante. He can't abandon the plan completely, though. Other than the planned assault and minor vandalism, he is doing the right thing. He thinks of Emily. She lets them come to her. Then she receives them. Then he remembers her tip, that he can listen with his eyes. He slips on his helmet, then slips through the boys' toilet door. He stands next to Wendell's locker, and his timing is near perfect, for it is less than 10 seconds before he hears annoyed footsteps slapping the corridor floor. Wendell turns into the hallway and stares. There, standing by his locker, with his or her arms folded, is some kid in a pair of black compression tights, a white long-sleeve rash guard, Jett's black one was in the wash, and a matte, black, downhill helmet. "Who the hell are you?" Wendell spits. "I'm a friend." "You can trust me," Jett says, sincerely, for his heart must be all in. He flips up the visor and holds Wendell's eyes with his. The air between them stirs, like the first moments of an electrical storm. Wendell's face softens, as if he too can feel the sparks, and although they don't get as violent as the tempests of heart-to-heart contact, they seem to have swept him into a different realm of consciousness. "I just want to know, did you have anything to do with the fake shooting the other day?" Jett asks. Wendell shakes his head quickly, as if to throw off his newfound state. "What? Why are you asking me?" "Well, I got a tip-off." "Are you a cop?" "No, I'm not a cop." "What the hell are you anyway?" "Just a friend." "Friends don't wear masks." "Don't they?" Wendell squints, knowing where this strange guy is going with this. He puffs out his chest and gets in Jett's face. "Did you open my locker?" "Yes," Jett says, with calm conviction, knowing that honesty is the only path to connection. Wendell makes fists and clenches his teeth. Jett doesn't flinch and keeps his eyes soft and breathing calm. He is in the wrong, and accepts that Wendell is right to be angry. Also, he is wearing a helmet, and just needs to cover the body, which to him comes easier than a piece of store-bought cake. Wendell raises his knuckles, but then releases them, and goes for a shove. Jett parries easily, and scoops Wendell's arm in a manoeuvre called an arm drag, discharging his energy, and pivoting to get out of the way. "Why did you open my locker?" "To see what you were hiding." "It's none of your business what's in there." "You're right. I shouldn't have done that. But when I lock eyes onto something like that, I can't look away." "Let it come," were Emily's words. Jett reflects on those as he relaxes his body after the minor combat. His body language tells his opponent that he is no threat. Again, the field between them electrifies. Jett takes his chance. He extends his right hand and touches Wendell on the arm. Skin on skin seems to add more charge to the air, taking Wendell's defences down a little more. Wendell looks down at Jett's hand in confusion. Then Jett goes for it. At a normal pace, as to not startle Wendell, Jett goes for a hug. Chest to chest, the bonding is almost instant, as if sinews are braiding together. Wendell's body shudders. "What is happening?" Wendell asks. "I'm still trying to figure that out." "Wendell, when you need to talk, let me know." "How?" "Oh, that's a bloody good question," Jett thinks to himself. "Leave a sign on your locker, then I'll be in touch." A door is heard opening. Jett runs off down the corridor. He goes back to the toilet block and gets changed. Recess comes, and Jett isn't present as his friends talk. Conversation drifts from rugby to video games to girls. Jett's mind, which is often on all three, is filled by a white supremacist. He shoots a message to Olive, asking her why she suspected Wendell. He doesn't mention anything about his findings, as to not contaminate any evidence. His phone chimes. "Sorry, catching up on maths," she replies. "He bumped into me, called me a leso, and said he can't wait for a cull. What have you found?" "Still looking into it." "Okay. BTW, I'm not a leso." Jett thinks. Doing further research, it turns out racial supremacy and hating on lesos, and women in general, go hand in hand. Soon, he learns that racial supremacy is a mirror image of racial hatred. He's 12 years old, almost 13. This isn't how he usually spends time on the internet. With a Vietnamese father and European mother, Jett has had a smooth run through life. Researching this topic draws him into a dark, suffocating, and disconnecting place. Forums are consumed by hatred. Jokes, skewed statistics, ideas of what they'd like to do to feminists, if they ever got the chance, pollute the message boards. There is no balance, and an explorer to such a realm would think there are only dark skies to match, without considering there are shores and harbours, and calms after tempests. It distorts reality and fills the head and body with bile. But though it is vile, Jett can see through the memes and slurs. Even the most fearsome of keyboard warriors wants one thing: connection. That's why they're there after all. He senses the desperation, the deprivation, and pictures a bitter loner, going to extremes to impress his or her anonymous internet buddies, just to feel a bit of belonging. Poor Wendell. This must be how he feels every day. Over the rest of the week, he passes Wendell's locker several times a day. There is no discernible mark. He and Rain also pass by Wendell and his friends. Jett is careful not to overtly observe Wendell, as his eyes might tell too much, so with his head low, he slips sideways glances. There are no shoulder drops or intimidating stares. Wendell just passes by like any other student. The next few weeks pass without incident. He thinks about Olive and Hector, without having time to see either of them. Jett's rugby team continues their winning streak, albeit with one washout, and Coach Blaze is happy with Jett's progress in training for the Prince of the Cage tournament. Jett is also happy, as he now trains with insulating foil taped to his left pectoral muscle. Wendell, though, is on the opposite trajectory. Jett notices there is less puff in Wendell's chest, and a droop in his face. It's as if he lacks the energy to power them. Jett doesn't enjoy seeing him this way. It's like when a player from the other team gets injured, or someone's soul is stolen in the ring and they lose their chin forever, a fate that has befallen so many of his MMA heroes. And it's clear that Wendell doesn't like it either. For after second period, Thursday morning, Wendell returns to his locker. He slips a permanent marker out of his pants pocket and scribbles a rough circle on the bottom right corner of his grey locker door. Jett can't believe what he's seeing, but supposes it was inevitable, thus has his response ready. There is a bond between them, and the mystery and supernatural nature of their meeting must be gnawing away at Wendell. So, when the hallway clears, Jett slips a letter through the gap at the bottom of the locker door. It's pouring. Rugby training is off, which has increased the wait for Jett. He has been sitting under the elevated causeway at Bruins Bay for over an hour. He walked the final leg, with his bike hidden in bushes nearby. He looks at his phone. If all goes to plan, Wendell should be here I'm here. Jett jumps, startled. He didn't, or couldn't, hear Wendell approaching from the other side. That's a drawback of wearing a helmet full time. Something he will have to address. He turns and finds Wendell holding an umbrella. There's something humanising about an umbrella. Even the hardest of hard asses look a little softer when they're scared of water. They come eye to eye. Then Jett extends his right hand. Wendell takes to it like a dry mouth to water, and Jett makes the most of that, pulling him in for a hug. Wendell doesn't hold back. He puts down his open umbrella and melts into Jett. He can feel Wendell's heavy breath. Wendell pulls away and looks at Jett, face breaking. "I'm not a fag," he says. "Are you a fag?" "No," Jett says. "And this doesn't make us fags?" "No." "Good. So what's happening?" "What happened?" "I don't know. I don't know how it all works. All I know is that we've bonded, and that you marked your locker." Wendell sucks in a deep one, and throws his hands on his hips. He looks at his shoes. "My uncle got out of jail," he says. Jett says nothing, waiting for him to continue. "He's a skinhead, but he grew a mullet when he was inside." "A skinhead with a mullet?" Jett asks. They share a quick laugh. "Came over last night. Wants me to help him with something." "Here it comes," Jett thinks to himself. "Gave me these." He reaches into his trouser pockets with each hand and pulls out a pair of shiny brass-studded knuckle dusters. Wendell gathers his thoughts and shakes his head. It's about to go down. "Does this have anything to do with the fake shooting the other week?" Jett asks. He does his best to hide the excitement surging through him. "What? No. Why asking me that again?" "It was a pretty big deal, that's all." Wendell shrugs. Probably just a prank." Having bonded, Jett is relieved that Wendell is not the one they're looking for. However, part of him is disappointed that he has not found the culprit. "There's a rally tomorrow. And where there's a rally, there's a counter-rally. That's why he gave me these," Wendell says, holding up the knuckle dusters, locked and loaded on his fists. Jett looks at the brass. Alarm and judgment bubble in his throat, forcing him to swallow them down. "So what's the rally about?" The rain spears down, rattling the shelter, forcing them to raise their voices. "What do you reckon?" Wendell scoffs. "The country's falling apart. Fags and Muslims are taking over the world, flooding the West. They don't speak English and they don't follow our laws. Jett nods. Okay. What do you mean, okay? I hear you and understand what you're saying. What? You're not going to tell me I'm wrong and I'm a racist homophobe? No. Wendell looks at him, shocked. You don't think I am? It sounds like you've got some doubts whether you are or not. But do you think I'm racist? I can hear you're really passionate about English and the law, and men and women being attracted to each other. Yeah, exactly. So, this rally then is about teaching people laws and encouraging them to speak English, while also helping men and women date each other? Wendell loosens his fists into innocuous hands and allows the brass knuckles to slide off into his jacket pocket. He shakes his head. Nation Front has cage fighters and bodybuilders itching to go. The ferals on the other side are pussies if you ask me. But they sure know how to mix a Molotov cocktail. But we can make them too. Main Street's going to be lit. Wendell takes a breath. I'm ready to go too. But meeting you, it's messed with my head. If it makes you feel any better, it's messed with mine too, Jett assures him. So, what did you do to me? Did you hypnotise me? No, that's not what I do. What do you do? I don't really know. It's all new to me too. But we have a connection now. What does that even mean? It means I can't stop caring about you. Wendell looks at Jett in alarm. Not in a gay way. Wendell stares out into the rain. My uncle says you got to look out for yourself. Drills it into me. He's my mum's brother. Like a dad to me. I ain't got no dad. Says he wants to make sure she's raising me right. Sounds like he cares about you. And the country. Says he won't be happy till every queer and Muslim's out of the country. It sounds like he's focused on happiness. Wendell snorts. You're funny, kid. What do you mean? I ain't ever seen Jimmy smile or laugh without someone getting hurt. He ain't happy. Don't think he ever will be. 'Cause even if every Muslim and queer disappeared tomorrow, he's still left with women, and boy does he hate women. Unless they're in the kitchen or the bedroom. His last ex put a restraining order on him. It sounds like she loves the law too. Wendell laughs. You are funny. Well, I hope he finds happiness. And I hope you do too. The rain eases, and a streak of sunlight pierces the dark clouds. I'd better go while I can, Wendell says. Thanks for meeting me. Good luck with the English and Law rally tomorrow. You did well, Emily says. I did nothing, Jett says, soaked after riding back to school. You listened to him, which is next to nothing. Remember what I taught you. Just listen, I know. But it's not much of a power if I can't change anything. Imagine having the strength to lift a heavy object, but you can only put it back down exactly where you picked it up. What's the point? But Jett, you have the ability to empower a heavy object to lift itself. Is that not a special power? The only place Wendell is moving himself is to Main Street, where he'll be armed with knuckle dusters. I think you underestimate the power of a bond. I think you underestimate the power of brass knuckles. She looks at the clock. They should both be at home by now, but Jett caught her just before she left the office. You're a smart kid, Jett. You know how teenagers talk to each other? Your interaction with Wendell was not that. Marking his locker in the first place and then actually showing up to meet you were two massive strides for him. It takes a whole heart's worth of courage to show that sort of vulnerability. Jett sighs. She's right, he concedes. Before developing his newfound abilities, he would have been way more comfortable fighting Wendell, even armed with knuckle dusters, than doing this feelings crap. Perhaps he shouldn't underestimate the power of a bond. Wendell himself conceded that theirs had messed with his head, but he isn't the only one with whom Wendell has a bond, nor is he the only one in Wendell's head. Jett's phone chimes. It's Olive. How do you know? She asks. I asked him, he replies. Really? Yes. Just like that. Just like that. As if he'd tell you the truth. He's being honest. I know it. How? I just know. All right. I'll see you on the bus tomorrow. Suspension's over.